change the name.
Just change the name.
I know, but I don't know if
Want
he's
to
coming.
take over?
Sit on the edge.
No, Doug's not coming. He is going to the city council school board meeting.
Oh.
So,
So everyone out there can.
just change the name to protect the innocent. All right, we're going to call to order the City of Sherwood Planning Commission meeting for October 9th, 2018. Roll call. Here.
Vice Chair Flores.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here.
Commissioner Cottle.
Here.
Commissioner Kai.
Here.
And absent is Commissioner Scott and Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take a leap of faith that the council liaison is at the council school board joint meeting. So do you have a report from Councilor Garland?
I do not have a report from Councilor Garland, but he is there this evening.
Okay. And it seems to be that we're out of order. We have the consent agenda next, which consists of 3 planning commission meeting minutes and a 2 meeting minutes and a work session minutes. I have an edit on the August 28th minutes. Under the page 5, the third public hearing, PA 18-07, I believe that was seconded by Commissioner Holm rather than Commissioner Cottle.
I have no remember. Is that the school board one?
No, this is the 3 where we did 3 real quick ones, bang, 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 and you seconded the first 2 and Commissioner Holm.
Yeah, that's true.
Seconded the third one, just to clarify in the minutes.
I don't know how you remember that, but good for you.
And then I had a couple other Scrivener errors that I turned into Erica prior to the meeting that are not substantive in nature. So that's the only change I have. Does anybody have any other corrections or additions to the minutes?
I just have some Scrivener errors that I can give after the meeting.
Great.
Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. Then I would entertain.
I move we adopt the consent agenda as amended with the including the Scrivener errors that are going to be turned in.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Staff announcements. Erica.
I do have a couple of announcements this evening. There is no regular Planning Commission meeting scheduled on October 23rd. There is an upcoming Vision Summit number 2 planned for Monday, October 29th, and that will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Sherwood Arts Center, and there'll be pie. So invite all your friends. It's planning and
Pumpkin.
pie.
What else would it be?
Maybe we'll have apple.
Apple would be good.
That's
Cinnamon
nice.
apple
That's
would be
true.
even better.
That would be nice.
We'll mix it up a little bit.
Okay. See,
Not everybody likes
I don't
Pumpkin,
like
pumpkin cheesecake,
Unless it has
pumpkin
a lot
apple
of
pie
whipped cream on it.
cheesecakes.
I don't like
and-
pumpkin.
yeah.
It's gotta have a lot of.
Yeah, that's true.
We do have a new code compliance officer who's working in the community development department. His name is Daniel Miller, and he started about 2 weeks ago. So I just want to let people know that if you have any code compliance issues, you can come to the second floor of City Hall and talk to Mr. Miller. There is a scheduled upcoming Planning Commission and City Council work session on November 6th. And I believe it's going to start at either 5 or 5:30, but I'll confirm that and send all of you an email.
Are we going to combine all those ones that were once scheduled into one big long one?
Yes.
I think that's good.
Yes.
Because those council members can get really long-winded.
So for that meeting, we'll be talking about the final draft of the EOA and some text amendments to our code, including the MSS3 dwelling unit.
And what date and time will that be again?
That's November 6th, and it's either going to start at 5 or 5:30, but I will confirm. And that's it.
That's it. All right. Community comments are next on the agenda. As we do not have any members of the audience, I want to move on to public hearings. And read my script. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on PA 18-08 FEMA floodplain update. The purpose of this hearing is to provide the public with an opportunity to testify and provide information to the Planning Commission concerning the PA 18-08 FEMA floodplain update. The Commission will conduct tonight's hearing in the following order. Staff will present the staff report, followed by questions, if any, by the Planning Commission. We will then open the hearing for public testimony. Each person's time will be limited as followed. Applicant 30 minutes. Persons in favor of the application 4 minutes. Persons opposed to the application 4 minutes. Rebuttal from the applicant, which is the remainder of their 30 minutes. We will then close the public hearing. Final comments by staff up to 15 minutes. Questions of staff, if any, by the Commission. Discussion and deliberation by the Commission. If this hearing is continued, this is the only notice of this continuance you will get. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of the blue testimony forms and submit it to the recording secretary. The Planning Commission chair will recognize people who wish to speak, and any questions should be addressed through the chair. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record, as this hearing will be recorded. Please speak clearly into the microphone. The Planning Commission's role in this decision tonight is for a recommendation to the City Council, as they are the final decision maker on this matter. That is it. And as this is legislative, there is no ex parte contact disclosure requirements. All right, then we move on to the Planning Department. Staff report.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. So what you have before you tonight are some text amendments to our floodplain overlay, and also to definitions within the Sherwood Zoning and Community Development Code. You are the hearings authority tonight. We're looking for a recommendation to City Council, and then next week, City Council will actually hold an emergency ordinance on this matter, just because we have to have these text amendments adopted by October 19th, and that's per FEMA's requirements. And
So you didn't even create this. This is all coming by FEMA, and we just have to adopt what they tell us to adopt.
Correct. Most of this new language comes directly from FEMA's model code, and FEMA requires that we have language that meets or exceeds their model code language. So as you know, most recently, just last week, Sherwood City Council adopted by reference the new updated FEMA insurance rate maps in the Washington County Flood Insurance Study. On September 10th, just last month, staff was actually contacted by our FEMA representative up in Seattle, Washington. And they let us know that additional amendments were needed to our development code to ensure consistency with the National Floodplain Insurance Program. Planning staff and engineering staff, we weren't expecting these changes to our code, but we weren't the only city in Oregon that's experiencing kind of this late rush with code amendments to our floodplain ordinances. There's about 40 other communities in the state of Oregon that have received this late notification from FEMA about certain amendments that need to be taken in order to meet the flood insurance guidelines. And a little bit of context here too about the floodplain here in Sherwood. We have about 60 properties that abut the floodplain, but only 2 properties in Sherwood actually use the National Floodplain Insurance Program.
That's because, you know why that is, right? When we developed in the 90s, we forced everybody that developed to deed their property in the floodplain to the city, and we disallowed any building to be built in floodplain. So we essentially got it all for part of our parks line.
Which is great practice.
Yeah.
So
Because you don't have
Probably good not to.
So here tonight, so
Yeah,
So-
right.
I mean,
in your code, the proposed changes to sections is section 16.10 definitions and section 16.134, which is the floodplain overlay. And staff, we have categorized the following amendments into the following themes. So we've updated the definitions, and we've updated duties and responsibilities of the floodplain administrator. And within Sherwood, our floodplain administrator is Bob Galati, our city engineer. So some of these text amendments, he has more responsibilities and duties that he has to perform as having that job here in Sherwood. And that's outlined in section 3.134.040. And that is in your staff report with those proposed changes. And then we have some updated general standards. And those include language that calls for, new construction or substantial improvements to be constructed using methods and practices that minimize flood damage. And that's just, once again, that's basic language that comes straight out of FEMA's Model Code Ordinance. And then we have updated specific standards, and those amendments are found in section 16.134.090F. And these specific standards actually relate to manufactured dwellings placed within the floodplain and recreational vehicles. The city references FEMA's manufactured home installation in flood hazard areas, their guidebook, as an additional technique to be used if manufactured homes are placed in the floodplain. And then the code update also sets requirements for recreational vehicles. Recreational vehicles cannot be within the floodplain for less than 180 consecutive days. So in your packet tonight, sorry, on the dais tonight, I had a revised Exhibit B. And this had to do with section 16.134.040E. And we just added language that states the floodplain conditional use permit is reviewed to assure that the proposed construction will be reasonably safe from flooding. And that term, reasonably safe, I know it's a tongue twister, is once again, that's straight from FEMA's model ordinance.
How can it be safe from flooding in a reasonable or unreasonable way? It's in the floodplain, so if there's a flood, it's going to flood.
But those construction standards have to be reviewed. That's all this is saying here by our floodplain administrator, Bob Galati, city engineer. So with that, our review criteria for our text amendment, the text amendment has to be needed or identified, which it is. It's identified through our FEMA district. And it has to be consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan and other provisions of state and regional statutes, which the amendments proposed tonight are all in line with our comprehensive plan and are definitely in line with our federal regulations concerning floodplains. It needs to also be consistent with the transportation planning rule. However, the transportation planning rule doesn't apply to this application because it's not a specific development application and doesn't have any impacts to the overall transportation system within Sherwood. So these amendments are necessary for our FEMA compliance. They are consistent with our comprehensive plan and goals and policies, which are listed on this slide. They do not conflict with any metro or statewide planning goals, and it does not conflict with the transportation planning rule. So public notice was given to DLCD, Metro, and our agency partners. We advertised in the Times. It's not called the Tiger Times, it's just called the Times. And we also sent individual notice again to all of the affected properties that either abut the floodplain or within the floodplain. And we didn't hear any, staff didn't receive any comments back from agency partners or from any of the Sherwood residents that we sent notice to. So with that, our recommendation tonight is for Planning Commission to forward a recommendation of approval of the proposed amendments to City Council. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
I have a series of comments, questions.
Yes.
I didn't know if anybody had any before we just went from 1 through 10 on this. Okay. I'm just going to start on Exhibit A, which is page 22 of our staff report. The definition says area of special flood hazard. It says, is the land in the floodplain? I think we shouldn't start with a question. We should just remove is. And state the land in.
Yep.
And then I was just going to make a note, for purpose of the regulations, the term special flood hazard areas is synonymous with the meaning area of special flood interest. I don't know if it's necessary, but to cross-reference in the definition, special floodplain hazard area, see area of special floodplain interest. You see what I'm saying? Alphabetically, if you go to special flood hazard area, we don't have that in there. I would just add it in the S's so someone could find it. Because if someone's trying to find special flood hazard area, they don't find it. If you reference it, because they're supposed to be synonymous, we should point.
Also see.
See also area of special flood, whatever.
Right. Area of, yeah.
Then on page 26, my question had to do with the second from the bottom. It says, we removed Federal Insurance Administration, a report provided by them. So are we stating that the examination, evaluation, or determination does not have to be done by the Federal Insurance Administration anymore? It can be done by anybody?
Correct. So when you read, I forget what section of the code, but
Professional.
and or reviewed by our floodplain administrator.
Okay, I just wanted clarification. We're not going to require Federal Insurance Administration review of our study. Okay. And then I'm sure your people will get it, but the next one, floodplain development, alphabetically should be after the floodplain. So just alphabetically, it's out of order. And then I flip to page 31. I was confused. Both this one and another one have new construction and then the term within the floodplain overlay.
Right.
So we're meaning that these definitions are only applicable to new construction within the floodplain overlay.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Flip it on to page 35 of all crazy things. Second line from the bottom. It says, the installation on the property of accessory buildings such as garages or sheds not, occupied. I don't believe the comma should be in there. And then finishing off that paragraph on the next page, part of a building, whether or not that alteration affects, and the sentence doesn't finish. I think we probably will need that, what those words are if we're going to recommend approval. We're missing a piece.
Can we recommend it for approval, subject to them finding the missing language and putting it in there, since it comes from the model language anyway, and that way it goes up to the city council anyway?
It still has to go to the city council tonight.
So,
right, yeah.
So we can still move to approve it, with subject to them finding the missing language and sticking it in there.
If it's not readily available, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have it.
Readily available.
Somewhere. Well, FEMA has it somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then I'm on page 42. G, you should strike through E, but where elevation data is not available as per subsection B, is it subsection B of this section, which is provided land is, where elevation data is not available per section B, but subsection B talks about land dedication.
Right.
I don't know if these cross-references, there's that cross-reference or from other sources as per section C. I don't know if they're just... On the base. So that one actually makes sense, but I just don't know if that cross-references, with all the renumbering, if that cross-section remains the
The
same.
16.134 point.
Well, no, where elevation data is not available as
Oh,
per subsection
subsection
B.
B.
Per subsection B is not elevation data. That is land required to be dedicated per section 16.134.030.
So that's cross-references need to be,
This one single cross-reference is referencing something that
which one is it? I'm just writing down the changes.
G,
What page?
page 42,
Page 42G.
G, elevation data not available as,
It should be subsection D.
D?
D.
Okay. So change G to D.
no,
No,
change,
B to D.
change subsection B to subsection D.
Okay.
Phew, okay. And then just scrivenerly, page 46, you didn't strike through housing. It should be manufactured dwellings. We should strike out the word housing.
Housing. Yep.
And then the last one on page 48, item 4, it's missing a part. It says, together with attendant utility and sanitary facility shall, nothing.
Not flood.
Shall electrical crossover connections shall be a minimum of 12 inches
Right.
and shall not flood. That's probably not it, but we are missing a section. And then my last one is F. I said that was the last one, it's my last page. F. Except where prohibited under section 16.134.070G, recreational vehicles placed on sites are required to, but if you go to section 16.134.070, they're prohibited outright. So in one section we're prohibiting them, in the other section we're allowing these things. So I know we create our own conflict, or we battle it all the time, so I'm trying to...
Right.
That may be in the FEMA code.
Right, but their draft language, we either need to accept the draft language regarding recreational vehicles and remove our storage.
They're allowed to be stored 180 days at a time and it must be moved, isn't that right?
Yeah, but in a previous section,
They're prohibited.
we prohibit it completely, so we have a conflict on our code,
So
which,
can't we just say, if allowed pursuant to the Sherwood code?
well, this is the Sherwood
I
code.
mean,
we accept.
can't we just reference our code and say,
They're prohibited.
well, yeah, just say, because FEMA likes what FEMA likes in their code, right? And so we just say, the prior section takes precedent over this provision.
Yeah, and that's what they have, except where prohibited under section G, recreational vehicles can be on site for 180 days, fully licensed, and meet the requirements. That's what you have in the code,
That's
but
what I have. Right.
and that's what's in there. But I'm just saying, if you go to the other part, they're prohibited prohibited outright. So we
Which
have
one takes precedence?
The most restrictive. If they're prohibited, they're prohibited. But in speaking with FEMA, they wanted this language in the code. For section F for recreational vehicles.
Imagine that.
Or just put subject to the prohibition specified herein. Would that work, subject to the prohibition specified herein? So there's no confusion that we prohibit it.
I'm going back here. 70.
We can stick somewhere in there hypothetically.
You can't have
I like
these here.
I like the hypothetically. That actually.
hypothetically, you can't do this.
So, I would just state that we are creating a conflict in the code at the request of the FEMA ordinance, which,
Well, why don't we just say that right there, saying there is no conflict, the prior prohibition shall supersede this provision, in parentheses, or can't we do that, or FEMA get all mad at us? We don't want to take the chance.
we don't want to take the chance, and this actually helps because it defines storage of more than 180 days.
I mean, if it's strictly or purely what FEMA wants, then
Let's just
it's
give it-
clear. It's clear enough that they're creating a conflict and
Yeah, but once we adopt it, it's part of our code, and then inside our code, we have these conflicts, and the rule is the most
Prohibitive.
or the most specific. Specificity always rules over general.
yeah.
Yep.
So then you're going to get people arguing over which is more specific.
And this is more specific, be on site for fewer than 180 consecutive days. So then,
Outright,
even
than an
though,
outright prohibition, because an outright prohibition is more restrictive.
I think a good attorney could argue that. I think what you should do is let's edit the other one, the other provision, and say, this shall take precedence over any other provisions herein. Can we do that?
For on section G. Sorry, if
On the
16-134-070G, the storage of recreation vehicles.
Is the most, or just define it, this is the most restrictive provision
They are
about
expressed,
storage of vehicles in our code.
Yep.
And we just define it that way.
yeah. Okay.
we can add that.
It just,
That takes precedence.
That's right, we
Yeah.
just say, we define it as the most restrictive, and then we're done. I feel like Captain Kirk could be sharing.
Right.
you can always get the big chair in the corner.
No, these things have these adjustable,
Yeah.
individual things, that's it.
It's like the way they make you
I know,
sit.
I
Maybe.
So what is the commission's feeling regarding the two missing sections? Are they readily available in your little,
If you give me a couple minutes, I can run upstairs.
I think we just approve it subject to inputting the language that FEMA gave us, because we're just advising the city council, and they can deal with it if they don't like what FEMA says. That's what I would prefer to do.
That sounds good to me.
so the 1 and 4 is specifically just copied straight out of their thing?
Correct.
Was the other one copied straight from their, I lost my other page.
So we need a motion to amend this, and then we can put the recommendation on, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes.
That would be, yes. So the amendments are, did you write them all down, Mark?
I just put approved subject to adding the language missing from the FEMA model code in the two provisions stated by the chairperson.
Chairman's fine. We also,
You got it's a touchy issue now. I just wanna be right.
I'm an adult, I can handle chairman.
You're beyond our Senate, so okay.
Yeah. So page 22 was a Scrivener correction for not making it a question in the definitions.
Because this is what I
comma
have, and we can go through them.
Okay.
We approve this subject to adding the missing language of the FEMA model code in the sections specified by the chairman. Page 42, subsection B needs to be changed to D. Page 46, there's a Scrivener's error that we announced. Page 48, there's also another missing part. Page 48F, there's a conflict within, and we've decided to
Yes, that's
add to the prohibition, saying this is the most restrictive provision herein. And then there was another Scrivener's error.
On page 22.
On page 22, and I'm just leaving those as Scrivener's errors. Was there any other ones? If there's not, that's my motion that we recommend approval of this PA 1808 FEMA floodplain update to the council with these modifications or changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
After she seconded.
We got a third.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Is everybody comfortable allowing the staff to add in the model code from FEMA for the two missing sections?
To be reviewed by council.
Since
Yeah.
it's being reviewed by council?
Yep, let them do it if they.
Okay, and you have track changes, and staff has the track changes for the Scrivener errors that we've
Yes,
commented on.
yes.
All right. Any other questions or discussions? All right. We are going to, all those in favor of recommending approval on PA 1808 FEMA floodplain update, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Assuming
passed.
meant as modified.
As modified.
As modified by my motion.
As modified by your motion. As moved.
That's moved.
As moved.
Right.
There you go.
The movement.
The movement. All right. That was almost record time and not quite painful. All right.
Hey, Eric, in the future, you don't need to mail me the packet. I look at everything all day long on PDF on my computer, and I just assume do it that way because I can add comments and stuff and then just print those pages out. Just to save the city some money.
We can make that happen.
All right. Any other planning commissioner announcements? Where's the next play, Commissioner Flores?
Oh, we just cast the next play for January, Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun one.
So right here at the Center for the Arts, the last 2 weekends in January.
Wow. That's going to be coming up
There's
fast.
a lot of talent in town, isn't there?
Very exciting. Any other commissioner comments?
I attended the League of Oregon Cities Planning Commissioner training. Was insightful. Thank you for signing me up. And there were some very good things that were very, appropriate to the audience. And then there were some things that I was not the only one questioning why we were sitting there listening to it.
At a government meeting?
Shocking, I know. So, but it was great, and there were some things in the overall sessions that I had wished that I had talked about. So I emailed Julia about maybe signing up for the full thing next year. And then, as the Planning Commission representative to the Charter Review Committee, our first meeting is on October 30th. So that's going to get started pretty soon. So that's all I have.
Thank you. On the session in Eugene, did they send you back home with any training that we can distribute through the other commissioners that would be relevant to?
No. Unfortunately, no.
Sometimes they get you PDFs and stuff that you.
They did not. I mean, maybe, I don't know if they have my contact information because you signed me up, so.
I don't know who was teaching that session. Do you remember?
Yeah, some guy. John Morgan.
John Morgan. I can definitely.
The former city manager of Sherwood?
I can get that. I can get that PowerPoint from John if you would like.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that he did talk about that I thought was really interesting was impressioned on everybody how important it is to make good, defensible, credible decisions.
And findings, yeah.
Yeah, so as someone like Mark that works in the legal field, you do that all the time. So it's second nature to some of us, but not to everybody. So it was, so that part was really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I have little slides, but he didn't send out the PDF. So if we could get it, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. If there's no other comments, then I never know if I have to motion to adjourn or I can just summarily adjourn us.
I say we give her the power just to adjourn us.
All right. Then there being no further action, we're adjourned.